the fans of WLW. Y'all keep on supporting this organization because they're going to be the next big thing.
Well, thank you to the great Teddy Long for that introduction.
It's always great when you get them on tape.
I tell you, right? It's WLW Amplify. I'm CT Harrison, along with my colleague, Martin Kadich.
How you been, CT?
Good. It'd be better if you get closer to the mic.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
It's been a heck of a week for wrestling.
It has been. It has been. But first, I want to make a real quick announcement. And then we're going to get right to talking about some wrestling and to our special guest today. But until then, hey, check this out.
Blood-chilling fear. Heart-stopping danger. World League Wrestling is back with the Outdoor Tour on Saturday night, August 29th at McDinger's Sports Sparring Grill in Eolia, Missouri. See WLW superstars like The Empire, Jayden Dominic Rose, Sean Patrick, Moses the Deliverer, Raheem De La Sway, and many more. Tickets are available on HarleyRace.com or in person at McDinger's Sports Bar and Grill. Get them now or you'll be down for the 3 count.
That's right. This Saturday, live at McDinger's Bar and Grill. Yes, an outdoor show. Out on the patio. That'll be fun.
You know, I can't wait. I have yet to do an outside show.
No?
So, it's
you know what? I haven't done one either.
You know, I can't wait. I'm excited. I want to get out there and perform in front of these people. Maybe go spend some time at the bar afterwards. You never know.
I highly suggest the tenderloin sandwich there. This Saturday, McDinger's Bar and Grill, outdoor event. You don't want to miss it. Just north of Troy and Eolia. Once you get to the exit, just cross over the highway, and it's right there on your right-hand side behind the truck stop. You don't want to miss that.
That's right. It's going
to be a great event.
It's not more than a half an hour away from the Race Wrestling Academy.
That's true. That's true. Good afternoon, Cliff. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us, and everybody else that's joining us today. Special guest today will be the NWA Heavyweight Champion, the National Treasure, Nick Aldis, will be here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Last time we saw him was Night of Champions 4.
That's right. Him and Leland Race tore the roof off the place down here in Moscow Mills.
Yes. Yeah, that was great.
Probably a very historic match in World League history. I mean, it's
absolutely. Harley was there, and he got to see it, and that's and I believe probably one of the last interviews done with Harley was done with Nick Aldis, was done by Nick Aldis that night as well. Sarge is here. Good Sunday afternoon to you, Sarge. Man, what a week in wrestling. I didn't get to watch a whole lot, but what I did catch this week was, because I really wanted to see how it went down, was the Thunderdome, SmackDown, the way they did it with the graphics and stuff. And I thought that was actually, to me, I thought it turned out pretty cool. It's different. They were, was it the Amway Center?
I believe so, yes.
I can't remember. But a different venue than the Performance Center. And I thought it just made it look bigger and better. And I think the wrestlers were able to get into the groove a little bit more because it was almost like they saw that they were performing for people.
Right.
You know,
and
that helps.
At the Performance Center, they're in a large warehouse,
Right.
You've seen the pictures of it.
Absolutely.
And then you have the added bonus of faces in the seats. They probably felt like going a little harder because they felt like they were actually performing for someone.
Yeah, I think so. It's a good time in wrestling. There's a lot of things happening. a lot of companies are getting back to work. I did see that Championship Wrestling from Hollywood is getting back to work. There's some stuff in the works with them and Thunder and the NWA. And we'll talk with Nick Aldis, see if he has anything to say about that. That's pretty interesting, going to some primetime stuff.
Well, and also Thunder Rosa showing up at AEW last night.
Yeah.
And maybe Nick can have some insight into that.
Maybe. Or Nick Aldis and Cody Rhodes 3.
That,
Is that, can it happen?
I hope so.
There's only one man who can answer that, and he will be on the show today. And he may not tell us to. You know how that is.
That's right. He's, champions advantage being what it is.
Champions prerogative. So we'll go with that. Other than that, it's good to be here. Make sure and join us on Thursdays for Thursday Night Showdown here on Facebook and also on our Facebook page and YouTube, I should say. And then again this Saturday at McDinger's for a live event, which we'll be taping for TV that night. So there we have it. Other than that, I can't think of anything else that I need to bring up at this time. Can you?
Well, I did just attend the show in Iowa, but that was
yep. Black Wrestlers Matter.
That's right. It was a great show. Really good crowd showed up. They were televised.
Sorry, I missed that one.
It was a really good show, and I do believe they're going to try and put on another one.
Good crowd?
Yeah, it was a really good crowd. Not a super loud crowd, but they were, like I said, earlier today, everybody was really engaged in the show. When they, when they had the opportunity, they were supportive of every wrestler that come out, and just wanting to see them perform. And it was a really good show.
Good, I'm glad. I know some of our boys were there. And I can't wait to, Austin is on. Hey, Austin, how you doing? Can't wait to talk to them about their experience. So I say we move on.
We could most certainly.
Because I'm really excited to talk with the champ.
It's been a while since I've talked with him, so.
Well, let's give him a holler here and see if he's ready to be with us. Do. Champ, are you there?
Hello.
How you doing, Champ? It's CT and Martin over at World League Wrestling.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey.
Oh, we lost him.
Hey, that's 15 seconds from Skype there. That's pretty good, right?
It's a Skype thing. Maybe he's in a bad location. Let's try it one more time. Let's try that one more time.
Sorry.
That's all right. How you doing, champ?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, we're doing wonderful. I hope everybody is healthy and doing well over there in your family through all of this.
Yeah, we're all good. We're all good. Vicky's headed off to Orlando. I actually just got done doing a little wrestling training at Tried and True with Tom, so trying to work off some ring rust.
Ah, getting ready to hit at it again.
Yes.
Very good, very good. There's a lot to talk about. Some new things fixing to happen with you guys over at NWA. And we'll get into talking about that maybe a little bit, at least get a little bit of insight from you. But first, I think the fans would like to hear, tell us about a young Nick Aldis. Tell us about growing up. What were you like growing up?
Well, was a sports kid, that's for sure. My father was a rugby player, so sports was a big part of our household. My brother and I played football, what you guys call soccer. I was one of those kids that that pretty much had a go at everything. Enjoyed some decent success in swimming and tennis. Making it to sort of national championships in those, and in high school, and I grew up in quite a rural part of the world, in Norfolk. So I was sort of it was really mostly I was quite an outdoors kid. Me and my friends were always playing football until dark, and we were kind of in that period where parents felt safe just sort of letting the kids just kind of run out and just kind of go, okay, be back for dinner. So that was kind of my childhood. And then somewhere around sort of my sort of early teens was when I really started to sort of formulate this idea that I think I wanted to be a pro wrestler. And so I became really interested in bodybuilding and sort of working out, and just all with an ultimate view to sort of, to pursue pro wrestling.
Did you?
And that really sort of consumed me until I was like 17, and then I started going to training.
Did you do any amateur wrestling growing up?
No, I did do judo. I played judo probably from about the age of about 7 or 8 until about sort of 12 or 13. Did a couple of like international meets and stuff like that, so it wasn't too bad. But
what got you interested in wrestling?
I think as a kid, like I always loved entertainment, and I always sort of had this. I always had these sort of aspirations to be an entertainer. Like I was very much kind of the. In my family, I was the youngest, and I was very much the sort of performer. I was always sort of, showing out and showing off and stuff like that. And then I think that what wrestling provided was this sort of perfect outlet to be both things, because I always wanted to be an athlete. Like I love sports. I love athletics. I love training. I love sort of pushing your body to its limit. But a lot of the, what I started to find especially as I became a teenager, I started to find that, sports wasn't exciting me as much as it had before, because, I wanted to be more of a character. I wanted to be more of an entertainer. I loved like the controversy of wrestling. I loved the sort of, these creating these moments, and honestly, it was like team sports started to become less appealing to me because I wanted the focus, on me as an individual. And I sort of realized, and this was kind of at the dawn of the boom of the sort of, mid to late 90s, that like, wow, wrestling is the perfect outlet to be both. You can be an athlete and an entertainer. And I also, like I said, I've always had a passion for bodybuilding. And so I think like, when you see like when I was a kid, growing up seeing guys like The Rock and Steve Austin and Hogan and Bret Hart and Sting, and they all just they had these great physiques, and they looked like action heroes, and that's kind of what I wanted to look like.
Well, who were some of your influences in wrestling at that time when you first? Who were was it actually The Rock and Sting and these guys, or was there others that really kind of caught your eye?
Bret Hart was probably the first one that really, he was really my first hero. And then, Rock and Triple H and Austin, Sting. It's funny, like, I always, it like later on, when I got a little older and I started working out and, really kind of getting into the business and studying it, like that's when I really started to become a fan of Hogan and like really started to sort of appreciate who he was. But I remember as a kid, everyone knew who Hulk Hogan was, right? Like he was like,
right.
He was an icon. He was like Mickey Mouse, everybody knew who that, we used to think, oh, that's Hulk Hogan, right? Like he was it's like as a kid, I kind of I just, he wasn't the one that made, that really kind of made me think, oh, he's cool. Like Bret Hart was the one I thought was cool and I wanted to be like. But it was only, it was later on, obviously, I realized just because, Hogan, remember, I was born in 86. So like Hogan, by the time I was sort of really able to kind of formulate my own kind of thoughts and stuff, like Hogan had kind of, this was when he was sort of doing Thunder in Paradise, and it was kind of in between his WWF run and his, and starting his WCW run and stuff. So then, by the time by the time the NWO stuff had kicked off and all that kind of thing, I was firmly a sort of a WWF fan, and in my mind, I was like, Bret Hart's the man, and Davey Boy, obviously. But so it was much later on where I started to really think, God, like Hulk Hogan, larger than life, and the same with Flair. I'd always heard the name Ric Flair, and I knew who he was, but I didn't really know anything about him until much later, because the NWA and WCW and that kind of thing, like, it didn't have the same level of attention in the UK that WWF had. So it was
right. You guys had like Robbie Brooks and guys like that over there.
Robbie Brookside, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that was the independent scene, but like what I mean is just in terms of sort of mainstream, like everybody knew who the WWF was, but it was only like when I became a student of the game, that's when I really started understanding, like, and appreciating and going back and studying the NWA, and that's when I sort of learned about like Harley Race and Flair and and Dusty and all these different guys, and thinking, wow, this was great, where's this been all my life?
It's funny because you mentioned, you got introduced to that, and you saw Flair and Harley and these guys. I mean, did it ever cross your mind that one day you would actually wear that championship? That you would actually attain that same goal?
No, not at all. No, it's.
I mean,
really
that's a
cool
big part of history.
And honestly, absolutely, and and back then, the weight of it would not have been apparent to me, but now it is, and I think that's one of the reasons why we've been able to reestablish it, because it genuinely means something to me, and because I know how much it means to to fans, and because and fans, like, anything I say, as it pertains to the NWA Championship is, in my mind, is real. Like, I'm not faking any of this. Like, when I say that, it means a lot to me to hold the same championship that Harley held and Flair held and Dusty held and, Terry Funk and all these, it's like, I mean it. I'm not just saying it to sort of toe the company line. Like, I genuinely mean it. And I think the fans understand that. And I think that's why they've been able to get behind it.
We can talk. Let's get into talking about Harley just a little bit. You had the opportunity to actually do some training with World League Wrestling back in the day.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
I think it was 2007. I think I came. I found out about the camp, and for me, I just saw it as a perfect. Just a great opportunity, because I had, by this point, I mean, I was a full-time wrestler. Like, I had started training with the Knight family in, I want to say 2005, and then by 2006 I was working full-time for All Star Wrestling for Brian Dixon, and at that point in time, the schedule, it was like we you're wrestling 5 or 6 days a week for most of the year. So I was a full-time wrestler, but I always wanted to get better, and I always had eyes on the prize, right? I always wanted to sort of get to America and see if see what I could do to sort of to get some attention in the States and enhance my career. And I don't even remember how I found out about Harley's camp, but I did, and I just remember saying, I've got to go to that. And I had a few friends who were all, we'd all broken in at the same time, and we were all trying to sort of make our way in the business, and we all decided to go together. So there was like this whole little team of, Brits, and we we scraped the money together, and talked to BJ and set it all up, and came over, rented a car, and drove around, and found our way to Eldon, Missouri. It's a bit of a culture shock,
Yeah.
but I mean, it was great. I mean, and just to because by this point, obviously, Harley Race is like, now I'm at this point I'm fully aware of just how just what a huge deal it is to be able to train with him. But up until like even growing up, like I was started studying the business, and I would always hear JR and guys like that kind of mention Harley Race, like when they were, especially when like Triple H was wrestling, there was shades of Harley Race with that high knee, and he reminds me of Harley Race, and he's like cerebral and a power with technique, and I'll be kind of like, so then I really started going out on my way to try to find, because you have to remember, this was YouTube was, I guess YouTube probably was around, but it wasn't like it is now, where it's like you can find anything.
Right, it didn't have the
YouTube,
content
right?
then that it does now.
Yeah, like now you can pretty much find whatever you want, like in you don't even have to press any buttons. You can just hold down a thing and say it, but it's like, but I went out on my way to really try to find, as much stuff about Harley as I could, and I started finding stuff with like him and Jerry Lawler and his, matches with Flair and Dusty and, guys like that. And I remember just going, wow, like this, because everyone hears the thing about Harley, and they always hear, oh, he was a tough guy, or he was really tough, and he was a whiskey drinking, bar fighting son of a gun. And it's like, yeah, that's true. Like, but the thing that often gets glossed over with Harley was, he was so smooth in the ring and was so giving, and such a consummate pro, like a real, like, and I'm not ashamed to say, like, I've modeled a lot of myself after him now in the way that I work, in the sense that, like, I try to make everybody I work with look great, but at the same time, I'm going to make sure that everybody knows I'm the champion, you know, and that's how I felt Harley sort of approached it.
What was it like meeting him for the first time?
I was nervous, but he was, I think that, well, first of all, BJ was just a wonderful lady. And I remember her saying to us, like, Harley can't believe that you guys all flew over from England. He was so amazed that, like, this whole group of guys had come over from England to come and train with him. And I was just like, are you kidding? Like, we were like, it's Harley Race, and I think he could tell from the beginning that there was a hunger there, and I think that, I guess, I don't really remember, but I think that by the time, we got there, we had some conversations with BJ, and she knew that, like, because I remember Harley, he knew I was a full-time wrestler, and I think he was impressed by that, like, that, that I was a wrestler. Like, I wasn't a guy, like, training to be a wrestler. Like, it was already my job, a full-time pro wrestler. Because he was super cool to me from the beginning. Like, not, it wasn't like he was going out of his way, because that just wasn't his way. But he was, he was just very, he was very welcoming, and I could always tell with, like, he would pull me to the side and kind of say these little things, like just enough to kind of keep me motivated and keep me going. And, like, there was a few times where I started to realize, like, I think that Harley kind of sees something in me. And then a couple of days into the camp, like, BJ sort of said to me, hey, Harley really likes you. And, like, he wants you to come to his, come to the house and come and see all his memorabilia. And so I remember him showing me all this stuff and showing me all these, like, these cool, like, all these amazing, these pictures from Japan, and, like, stuff, like, these pictures of him slamming Andre and all this kind of stuff. And, I just kind of, he never said it direct, but I was just, because I got this feeling that, okay, like, I think he gets there was a few guys there who went on to do something. Like, I was one, Joe Hennig was one, Sam Shaw was one, who's now Dexter Loomis in NXT. And it was like, you could just, and it's no accident that we all sort of became friends, because I think we could, you can tell at those things, you can always sort of tell which guys kind of want it the most and which guys are going to sort of push through and make something of themselves.
What would you say is probably the greatest lesson that you learned from Harley?
I think for me, and it's not exclusive to Harley, but it was definitely something that Harley drilled into me. And I think it was one of those things where at the time I just kind of nodded along and went, oh yeah, sure. I understood what he was saying, but I didn't really kind of get it until later on. But Harley, one of the things he said to me was, I'm not quoting it exactly, but I'm paraphrasing, but it was kind of like, it doesn't matter how fancy something is or how, well executed it is. It's like, if there's any moment in there where the people know that you guys are working together, then it's over. Right. And I wish that more people in the business today still had that mentality. Mm-hmm. Because I see a lot of stuff now where it's like some amazing stuff that I can't do, but the sort of the emphasis has shifted now to all everyone cares about is the execution, and no one cares about the sort of making it look like it just happened, right? Like there's a lot. Sometimes I see, to me, when I see like really obvious cooperation, it takes me out of the moment. And I remember Harley sort of saying that to me, like, it doesn't matter how good or bad something is. If it's obvious that you guys were cooperating, then then the whole thing is effed.
Right. Right. I think when I personally was first introduced to you is when you came in as Magnus. Mm-hmm. What were those years like for you?
Well, there's a long. I mean, that's a long time. I mean, it was 6 years I was in TNA, and obviously went from Brutus Magnus, which was not a great character, and then thankfully thankfully I got saved and they put me in a tag team, and then I was able to find myself. Tag team wrestling is a lost art, and it's sort of coming back now. There's a lot of tag teams now who are really, like FTR and the Bucks, and and guys in WWE and like who are really going out of their way to reestablish, like, we're a tag team and we focus on tag team wrestling. But I think TNA doesn't always get enough credit for the tag team division that we had in the sort of in like 2009 when I came in. It's like they put me and Doug together, and we got booked steady because we were a heel tag team that got to work with all these great acts. We got to work with the Dudleys, Beer Money, who were the hottest act in the company, the Machine Guns, like there were all these great tag teams, but they were all baby faces. So we got to be the heels, and we were kind of we were in demand, and I learned so much because in a tag team you get a chance to stand and watch and learn, and you don't, and the pressure isn't on you 100% of the time. You can always tag out. So that was an important sort of formative years for me. And look, I went through every stage in that company. I've been on the card as dark match, opening match, mid card, main event, all the way to being world champion. And ultimately, like, I learned a lot. And you take the rough with the smooth. Like, there's politics, and there's people you get along with, people you don't, relationships that you form and relationships that fall apart and everything like that along the way. But it all kind of forms a tapestry to make you who you are. And it's definitely part of the tapestry that made me who I am today. And that's why, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now had I not experienced all those things. And if all help in,
I think we're losing you there. Your signal might be a little weak. Oh, we lost him. Well, hopefully he'll get back on here, and he's got a poor network connection, it looks like, so hopefully we can get him back on here. You back with us,
I'm here.
champ? There you go. Okay, we lost you for a second there. One of our fans, Sarge, would like to know. Pull it up here. Sarge would like to know what match or matches do you remember from your past that you are from the past that you look at and you say my matches need to be more like that.
Well, there are certain matches that I watch, over and over again, kind of in preparation for other matches. Depending on who my opponent is, I'll sort of study certain matches to kind of, to sort of get me, to give me ideas and inspiration for that type of match. And so some of those are Flair and Steamboat from '89, any of those, but particularly the one from Nashville. Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect from King of the Ring '93. It's probably my favorite match of all time. One that I watch or study a lot, particularly when I'm sort of traveling around doing the kind of, when I'm wrestling the different sort of regional, top indie guys in different regional sort of promotions, is Bret Hart and 1-2-3 Kid from Raw from like 1993. That's just a beautiful match. It's such a great story told. Harley and Jerry Lawler, I can't remember what year it was from. I want to say it was like early '80s. But there's a match they had that was just like, I thought it was Lawler's. I thought it was Lawler's best match. I'm trying to think what else. There's a lot that I go through. But off the top of my head, those are the ones that I think of. Particularly, in this role as as NWA champion, I sort of I tend to go to either Harley, Flair, or Bret. Are the sort of guys that I tend to watch, just because it lends themselves the most, and I try to sort of find some middle ground between those three guys.
You just mentioned storytelling, and do you think that storytelling is something that's lacking these days in a lot of matches?
Oh, without question.
I see a lot of spot, but no storytelling.
A lot of matches now are really just one long spot. It's just like there's very obviously that it's very obvious that no part of this is happening organically. It's very obvious that the whole thing it's like a fight scene, and while it's very impressive, I've become a little numb to it. Yeah. I like to tell stories, and honestly, I think that, in a weird way, it's been beneficial to me, because it sort of created a bit of a gap in the market for me, because, then I came along and sort of, I work with a lot of these guys that work that kind of style, but then they have a different kind of match with me, and everyone goes, that was different, and because ultimately fans, I believe deep down, want a story told. It's harder to get them to that place where they're ready for it. So it's easier to get a reaction to just go out and just hit a load of moves and, do a load of impressive spots, one after another. And that's going to get that sort of instant gratification on Twitter and, from the people. And they're going to say, this is awesome, yada, yada, yada. It takes a different sort of level of commitment to make them to build them to a point where by the end they're like, okay, that was a great story, and I was invested in that. It's a different, it's scary. It takes a different level of commitment, but that's what I try to do.
What's it like for you? How is it to work with some of the Harley guys over there at NWA? I mean, you got Trevor Murdoch, even David Marquez, some of these guys. What's it like to work with these Harley guys over there?
Yeah, well, Trevor, I was really glad that Trevor was able to get an opportunity, and obviously, I kind of went out of my way to make sure that I got to wrestle Trevor, because I wanted. That was a great match. To me, he was a perfect example of what we were trying to achieve with what we were doing. I think there are certain guys that I think really embody kind of what we want the NWA to to stand for in the modern era. I'm one of them. You know, Trevor is one of them. Tom Latimer is one of them. You know, on the women's side of it, Thunder Rosa is one of them. And it's like that's what we want to represent. Like, we want to represent like solid, believable, rugged, athletic wrestling. You know, like an athletic contest between two grown adults.
I want it to look like a fight. You know, I don't want it to look like a
competition,
stage play. I want it to look like a fight.
It's two people trying to win a match.
Right, and by the time they get there, it's like the two personalities and the egos and everything else. It should be a culmination of their. It doesn't always have to be, I hate your guts and I want to, you know, and I want to kill you. You know, it doesn't always have to be that. Sometimes it can just be, I know I'm better than you and I'm going to prove it. Okay, prove it, buddy. You know what I mean? Like, but ultimately, by the time you get there, by the time the bell rings, you want people to be going, oh, okay, I want to see this. You know, it can't just be like, oh, this is going to be a good match. Like, you know, you want people to, there has to be, to me, there has to be a like you said, there has to be a sort of a flavor of competitiveness to it, where you sort of feel like there's a little bit of, you know, animosity there, something.
Well, now you brought up Thunder Rosa. One of our fans, Ron Landels, wants to know, with her appearing on AEW, is there any chance we'll see you on an episode of Dynamite or an AEW pay-per-view maybe in the future?
Or even possibly
I think
Cody and U3.
Yeah.
Well, that seems to be the that you know, it's been almost 2 years since Cody and I wrestled in Nashville, 2 out of 3 falls, and I regained the championship from him. It's almost 2 years since All In, you know, so it's like, and yet to this day, you know, ever since the rematch in Nashville, I mean, that conversation has never gone away. I mean, every day there's someone, when are we going to get Cody Aldis 3, you know? And ultimately there are a lot of moving parts and there are a lot of different things that need to get sorted out, but clearly, you know, I think it's obvious now that there was an agreement, there was a cooperation between the NWA and AEW to facilitate this, you know, Thunder Rosa appearance. So, you know, that's the first step, and we'll see where it goes from there. But ultimately, you know, we've proven before that we're open for business with whomever. You know, we put we want to just promote the matches that the fans want to see.
I think that's one of the things Brian Ferguson had said. Nick Aldis is an underrated champion and a true professional. And I'm sure you can appreciate that. But what we can appreciate as a fan is your willingness to travel and defend that championship all over the place. I mean, you went everywhere. You even came here. And I think that's something that fans really appreciate. And I think that's also part of putting that NWA championship back where it belongs, you know, to the status that it belongs at.
I don't want to get on a soapbox here, but he's what a champion is. You know, and I hate to just come on sounding like that, but it's true. You wrestle anyone and all comers, and I've seen you do it now for quite a few years. So you're what the 10 pounds of gold is about as a champion.
Well, the thing, you know, I think in the beginning was the main asset of the brand was the championship. So the one thing we had to do was, first of all, we had to remind everybody why the championship was important, and obviously, you know, we reminded them of that was easy because we just went, hey, you know, Harley Race held this belt, Ric Flair held this belt, Dusty Rhodes held this belt, Dory Funk Jr., Jack Briscoe, you know, Terry Funk. It's the lineal heavyweight championship. The WWE titles were spawned from the NWA title. You know, like virtually all of the major championships, you know, in wrestling of the last you know, few decades, all spawned from the NWA, you know, World Heavyweight Championship. So, you know, it took a little reminding of that, and then for me, honestly, some of it happened organically, but it was like I had a few bookings. I had some bookings in Australia and a few different places, and then as the NWA stuff started to start the Pounds of Gold series and everything, he's out and we get out with the rest. We were, they weren't, Billy was not entirely sure how we wanted to do it. He was more judicious and because we wanted to do that sort of prize fight approach where we long build to one match. And then when all of these promoters from all over the world just started saying, oh, can we please make it a title match? Can we please make it a title match? I said, we've got a great opportunity here to reestablish the title as a real world title, because in the space of a few months, I can defend it in, a few different countries and, all over the US, all over North America. So that's what we did. And, within a year, I defended it like 4 different continents, and I was the first guy to ever defend it in China, all over Australia, all over the US and Canada, Puerto Rico, in the UK, Ireland. So yeah, and I think that people just realized that, hey, we're not going to get to see this anywhere else. And then obviously with All In and Cody and the level of attention that got, then it became really kind of exciting for people to think, wow, I could see this championship come to my town, and that's the way we wanted to do it. And I take pride in going to all these different places and putting some attention on a young wrestler, young up and coming wrestler, or not even a young, sometimes an established veteran, but someone who could who can really benefit from that. Like I kind of promo once on Power where I said ain't trickle down economics, it's nickel down economics, and I meant that because I was like, I want to be the world champ, helps other people make money, because that's ultimately what the business is about, is creating value so that everybody comes out of it better off.
Which brings us to, you talk about defending it everywhere, and you accepted a challenge from the Legacy Leland race and actually brought the title to Missouri and defended it here at Night of Champions 4, right in front of Harley.
Yes. One of the biggest honors of my career.
What was that like working with Leland in the ring? How was the battle with Leland?
He's I mean, not surprisingly, he's a classically trained wrestler. So it was I really enjoyed that match. I feel like it was a special night for the people in that building. And I certainly, I felt like by the end of that match, people felt like he could have won the title. Mm-hmm. He came very close. Yeah. And I think that's the measure of it, right? If the people leave thinking, wow, he, like, for a minute there, I really thought that might happen, then job done. And the fact that I was able to do it with Leyland, great guy, great talent, and but obviously the major part of that was the fact that it was, that match was for Harley. Mm-hmm. That he had been, he had been a little disenfranchised over the years with what the NWA had become before we had taken it over, and it took him a bit of convincing, to sort of to get back on board with it. But I will forever take it as a real sort of badge of honor that before he passed away, he had sort of turned the corner and said, okay, like, I'm going to acknowledge this NWA I can acknowledge, and this NWA champion I will acknowledge and endorse. That's an honor that you can't replicate. And the opportunity to sit with him and talk to him, and we got it on film. I have the picture from that sit down from that show. There's a picture of Harley and I shaking hands. It's one of my favorite pictures. I have it right above my desk in my office.
You guys did a fantastic episode of 10 Pounds of Gold with that. And if I am remembering correctly, I'm pretty sure that was probably the last interview that was had with Harley.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It was, it's a strange honor, you know. It's a weird thing to say, like, oh, you know, but obviously it is an honor. Obviously, we would all love if Harley was still here with us, but you know, the fact that the last interview he ever gave was with me, I take pride in that, you know, personally and professionally, obviously.
I think, you know, Harley had such an impact on the industry and even among the younger wrestlers coming up today, and it was evident to me at his services, actually, because what overwhelmed me was walking into that room, and we had wrestlers from the past that Harley had worked with. You had current champions and current wrestlers from promotions. You had wrestlers from the past that Harley had trained. We had current wrestlers on his roster at that time, and we had the trainees who were going through the academy at that time. All of this entire group of people in one room, and it just kind of overwhelmed me as to the broad spectrum of people that he had touched.
Oh, I mean, his service was, you know, there was like a Hall of Fame in there, you know, and I had to say, I was looking around the room, and it was, you know, I'm with you on that. I was a little overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed that I was invited, you know, to be honest. Like I was, you know, standing there thinking, wow, this is like a who's who of the business and people who have, who were, you know, important in Harley's life and in his legacy. And, you know, the fact that I was sort of included in that was very humbling.
Which brings us to, you know, you had the ability to have in that at Night of Champions 4 your championship that you had earned, and you had the championship that Harley had held 8 different times in the same room, and that's something special.
Absolutely. I mean, that was really the weight of it for me, was the fact that not only did I want to, you know, make sure that, you know, Leyland had the match of his career, but it was the fact that I wanted everyone in that building to leave, you know, knowing that Harley Race is sitting there, you know, arguably the man who defined that championship the most. I wanted everyone to leave that. I needed everyone to leave that show that night thinking, okay, that guy, meaning me, that guy is the right guy to hold this. You know, that guy feels like the right guy to carry on this legacy. You know, that's the challenge.
Well, I personally, I'm a huge fan, and I'm real happy with the way you have you've held that championship. I think it's been with dignity, it's been with pride, and been with a whole heap of a lot of class. One of the things I wanted to, you're welcome. One of the things that I wanted to bring up is there's some stuff coming up for you guys. I did see that the United Wrestling Network and the NWA and Thunder Studios have got some exciting things coming up for Primetime Live. Is there anything you can say about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weekly. It'll be a weekly live show. You know, for a paper. You know, it will be a pay-per-view, a small price point. So you know, we're not expecting people to buy a pay-per-view every week, but we'll be booking and promoting sort of, you know, marquee matchups. You know, for certain, we meaning the NWA, for, you know, for certain events, you know, for certain shows in that schedule. And you know, ultimately, like in the current circumstances with the COVID restrictions and everything, that we felt like that was a good way to go forward, was to, you know, was to basically think, okay, what are some key matchups that people want to see? Some, you know, good marketable, you know, championship matches and different matchups that we think people would pay to see, and we'll market them accordingly, and we'll put them on pay-per-view at a small price point. But it also gives us a chance, while we're there, to get into Thunder Studios world-class facility, you know, and you know, we'll probably have we'll have more matches and promos and things of that nature that we can then put out for free on our YouTube and Patreon and stuff. So it's just a chance for us to get back to work, but in a sort of in a manageable way.
Well, it should be a comfortable environment for you because, I mean, you're used to working with Marquez already. So this should be a very comfortable and easy environment to work in.
Yeah, and yeah, look, you know, I'm ready to get back to work and you know, give our fans, you know, our fans have been very patient, very loyal, and you know, we're ready to start doing, you know, putting on some shows for them that they're going to enjoy and, you know, reward them for their loyalty.
Well, you guys were able to, you know, of course, with everything getting shut down and you weren't able to get into the studio anymore, you know, for the shows, but you were able to still throw some content on there. You know, you had, what was it, Carneyland and, you know, some other content to put on there, which was actually kind of, I actually enjoyed Carneyland. I thought it was pretty good. That was interesting.
Oh, you were the one.
Yeah, I was the one.
Hey, I watched too.
It was, you know what? It was different, and I think that's what I enjoyed about it. Is just it was something that was different, but it was really good, I mean, look, entertainment.
I mean, look, we were all wondering how long this thing was going to last at that point. So we thought, well, maybe this will be a cool thing to do for a few weeks. You know, and then obviously it sort of started to become more apparent that this thing wasn't going to just disappear after a few weeks. And I think that, you know, and then obviously with some of the other issues that then kind of came up, it just felt it didn't, you know, wasn't pertinent to keep going with that. But yeah, I mean, look, the thing with the NWA is that we've always been honest with our audience. Like, we'll try something, and if the audience don't like it, you know, we'll just kind of go, all right, you know, cool. Like, well, we tried it. You know, we don't sort of, but we have that authenticity. You know, we've always sort of tried to push that from the beginning. Like, we'll be honest with it and say, look, we're trying something. You know, if you don't like it, like, let us know. But we're going to give it a go because we want to develop that long-term relationship with our audience and that loyalty. So yeah, but I'm looking forward to getting back to doing what we do best, you know, which is build and create anticipation for matches and that sort of prize fight feel, and, you know, matches that feel important and stories that feel important.
I got to say that I think one of the greatest things for me on this with the NWA is that you're introducing the NWA to a whole brand new audience of younger fans who weren't there for the NWA and didn't know about it. I personally, I remember, but there's a lot of fans that are being introduced to it through what yourself and Billy and the rest of the crew are doing with it. And I think that's really exciting. This is kind of an exciting time for wrestling right now. There's a lot of products out there to watch, a lot of independent stuff. It's really a great time for the wrestling fan.
Yeah. I think that, you know, it's become a bit more fragmented, and I think that it just means that, you know, people can sort of decide which, you know, where they want to sort of plant their flag, and you know, for us, we've developed a solid little base that they've decided that they want to, you know, that they hang their hat on the NWA, and we want to keep building that. But yeah, you're right. I think a lot of people who don't really fully understand what we're doing or haven't really watched it enough, they sort of think, oh, they're just like a throwback promotion. They're trying to do like old school stuff for old school fans. But what they don't realize is that to a whole new generation of fans, they're not looking at it as like, oh, they're doing like old school wrestling. They're just seeing stuff done differently. So it's just it's fresh and new to them, because these fans, like the Monday Night Raw kind of what I call Monday Night Wrestling, Monday Night style wrestling, which is like the 2-hour show with the sort of opening in-ring promo and, you know, matches and angles and stuff. That was new in 1993, but that's been the norm. That's been the sort of style since like then, or since like 94, 95. So, so now it's kind of like for the last 25 years, so like for kids now, they just think that's like the norm. But,
Right.
so they see like studio wrestling or some of the other things that we do, and they go like, wow, this is cool and different. And so, yeah, I mean, I've got a niece and nephew who are, I think, 13 and 11, and they, they've known me as I was on mainstream television with Gladiators, and then with, and then they saw me on TNA. TNA had pretty good TV clearance in the UK at that time, and they didn't care. But now I'm on this YouTube show, and all their friends are going like, oh, is that your uncle? Like they watch it on YouTube because that generation of kids, like they're watching YouTube. So like, and now they're suddenly going like, oh, my friend from school like wants a signed picture, and like they saw like this commercial, they're going to get that Retromania game that you're in for the Switch, and and this and that. So it's like we are sort of reaching a new audience at the same time. The whole point of what we were doing was to appeal to people who knew that stuff and missed it, but also to show other people, to show a whole new sort of set of eyeballs, like, hey, this is a different option. It's a true alternative.
Right. Any words of wisdom for the up and coming wrestlers these days?
Nowadays you've got to be more than just a wrestler. Producer, you've got to be a producer, director, editor, marketer, social media. You've got to know all that because you're running a business.
Yes.
You are your brand. You're a brand manager. You've got to know all that stuff. The guys now, when I came up, guys were, we were sort of moving from guys sending AI-10s in the mail to guys emailing, a picture and a resume. And then it became a picture, a resume, and maybe a link, like a YouTube link to a match or an attachment video of a match. And then maybe it was then it progressed to like a highlight reel or something. Now guys are like producing their own vignettes. Like you got to be able to like shoot and direct and produce your own vignette. Invest in yourself. Like Ricky Starks, perfect example. I went to bat for him super hard, and I'd never even seen him wrestle. Why? Because I'd seen the vignettes he did, and I said,
Uh-oh.
Oh, we lost.
right?
We lost.
So it's like, who goes to that level of effort to make a vignette like that is worth working with, and obviously I went to bat hard for him, and he turned out to be a phenomenal talent, and now he's now experiencing, more success. But that's the thing, is like, that's the level now, like for independent guys, you've got to just, if you want to market yourself and figure out your character and who you want to be, then produce it, go make it, go do it.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that, you can download a program. You can buy an editing program now for $100, like, and make stuff that 10 years ago you would have needed, a major like editing suite to be able to do, right? So there's no like, and all you got to do is like, invest in watch a few YouTube tutorials on how to edit and stuff, and you can make something. But ultimately, it's like, that's going to be the difference maker now. Like, how much effort are you willing to make? Or are you just going to, go to wrestling school and just like hope that someone books you and, tweet and stuff like that? Or are you going to go the extra mile and invest in yourself?
Well, I guess in closing, give us some upcoming dates, some events, signings, podcasts, anything else you got coming up, so the fans know where to find you and where to find you on social media, the whole bit.
Well, next week I'll be having my first match I've had in months in Texas. I think it's in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But then all the attention will be on Primetime Live on Fight TV or on traditional pay-per-view. starting Tuesday, September 15th. We're close to announcing my first opponent for that. We're hoping that it's going to be someone who I think everyone's going to be excited about, and then then after that, you'll start to see more content coming out again on the NWA channel. So youtube.com/NWA, and then if you want to join the NWA Patreon, it's patreon.com/Carneyland. I think that's going to change soon to NWA, but I think at the moment it's still Carneyland. But then as for me, you can follow me on Twitter at @RealNickAldis or on Instagram @NickAldis. I'm verified on both, so just look for me. You'll find the blue check. And the NWA is simple. It's @NWA across the board. But look, keep your eyes peeled because you never know where me and the 10 pounds of gold are going to show up.
Champ, thanks a whole lot for joining us today. It's been a pleasure, and I hope that we get to see you back here sometime soon in Missouri. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I consider St. Louis the spiritual home of the NWA, so I'm always happy to come to Missouri and defend the title.
Right on. Have yourself a fantastic day, and we'll see you down the line.
Okay, thanks, gents.
Thank you. That was great. That's good to hear from him. Nick Aldis, the NWA heavyweight champion. The title that Harley held 8 different times.
I kind of got in that mode where I was sitting and listening because it's like sitting under a learning tree.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't speak up a lot of that time. I was listening to what he had to say.
Yeah. He's very smart.
Champs.
He's
Right.
very smart. You can tell that he has studied, and he really studied the game of wrestling. He studied the back, behind the scenes, business side as well as the in-ring performance, and his athleticism and his brain, I think, are going to take him so much further. In my opinion, he has not peaked yet.
No, definitely not. He's got a long way to go, and I don't see him letting up with that title. And there's a lot of people out there who want to challenge for that title, but right now there's not a whole lot of guys I think can take that title from him.
Probably not. But it was a privilege to have him here at Night of Champions 4, and it was a privilege to have him on the show today. Maybe we can get him back on sometime, a little bit down, maybe after their new stuff gets moving and we get, some content going and get them rolling again and see who some of his next opponents are, because that'll be interesting to see.
I've been missing the whole NWA product. So.
Right. We have too. I have. Again, I want to remind everybody that, if I can get it on here, this coming Saturday at McDinger's Bar and Grill just north of Troy in Eolia, World League Wrestling will be live for an event out there. So you want to come out for that. It's going to be fantastic. Derek Stone will be in a match, a champion versus champion match, where he'll be going against our junior heavyweight champion, Sean Patrick.
That's going to be a great match.
Oh, yeah.
We had Sean on here. We've had Derek on here. And I'm excited to see how Sean stacks up with Derek. I don't think he's ever faced someone like Derek before.
No. But Derek hasn't faced man, it's hard to say he hasn't faced. I really think that Sean is first of all, he's a tremendous athlete.
Yes.
A good person outside the ring. And as well as he's really, really, he hasn't reached his peak either.
No, he's just starting his road. Talented young man, like you said, strong competitor, but it's like I said, I don't think he's wrestled against someone like Derek Stone before, and I think Derek Stone has probably wrestled a young up-and-comer like Sean Patrick before.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, again, that's this Saturday on the 29th at McDinger's Bar and Grill just north of Troy in Eolia. and look forward to seeing you all out there. That will be being taped for TV as well. So we want the crowd out there. Get loud, get proud, show us what you got.
That's right.
Be sure and join us this coming Thursday for Thursday Night Showdown here on Facebook and YouTube. And we'll see you probably next Sunday, 4:00.
For certain.
Right here. Oh, we could talk about the event at McDinger's next Sunday, because we'll be fresh from that.
Mm-hmm. I have it on good authority that we might see somebody who performed at that show at the studio.
Oh,
kind of want to keep it a little bit of a surprise.
keep it on the down low.
Yeah, he doesn't do a lot of this kind of stuff. He tends to think of himself as better than this kind of thing. And next week I guess he's going to slum with us.
All right, then. I can't wait. That'll be fun. Other than that, thanks everybody for joining us here at WLW Amplify. We want to thank our sponsors, of course. Jim Chineri Ford in Moscow Mills, Jim Chineri Chevrolet in Troy, Impact Digital Designs,
C.T. Harrison Business Solutions, and Traveling East Productions.
It's been a great time hanging out with you, and we will see you all next Sunday.
Sunday or Saturday.
All right. We'll see you guys.
Blood-chilling fear. Heart-stopping danger. World League Wrestling is back with the Outdoor Tour on Saturday night, August 29th at McDinger's Sports Bar and Grill in Eolia, Missouri. See WLW superstars like The Empire, Jayden Dominic Rose, Sean Patrick, Moses the Deliverer, Raheem De La Sway, and many more. Tickets are available on HarleyRace.com or in person at McDinger's Sports Bar and Grill. Get them now or you'll be down for the 3 count.